Welcome to Gate City Chronicles. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and I have the distinct pleasure today to introduce Peggy Riley from the IRS, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, glad you're here. We had you on here last year, and I'm glad you came back. And I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions that are, with all this new changes that are going about. We had the elections. People are probably worried about the tax changes. I think we talked off camera a little bit about sequestration. Sequestration, yeah, that one. You said it better than I did. That seems to be a problem with the delays.
Well, nope, there are some rumors out there, or people are worried that their refunds may be delayed because of sequestration, but it's not going to affect that at all. The IRS employees are faced with a possible furlough, but it won't take place until sometime in the summer. So we'll be around to process all those returns and get the refunds out. And in fact, right now, 9 out of 10 refunds are going out within 21 days, as we have promised. So that so far it's been pretty smooth sailing, even though we had a late start to the tax season.
Yeah. One of the other things I thought was interesting is we were talking a little bit about volunteers. You actually have people volunteer to help out with their taxes. Is there anything local around that?
Definitely. We have a lot of free services that are available to people that people might not even realize that are available to them. But what you're talking about is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. We partner with community organizations, community colleges, schools, to set up volunteer sites where we go in and we actually train these volunteers to help prepare tax returns, simple tax returns. Can't be anything too complicated. Your income must be below the earned income tax credit level, which is about $50,000. And you must have a simple tax return. You need to bring all your documents with you. Mm-hmm. And in most cases, they're going to file it electronically for you for free. So you're going to get some free help, free electronic filing, and get your refund back even quicker.
Now, that doesn't replace necessarily an accountant if you have a little bit more complications. Like you said, they got to be simple.
Right. We're talking real simple returns with maybe just a few credits and deductions. If you have children, obviously you would be taking the child tax credit and maybe the child care credit if you're paying for somebody to watch your child while you work. So some of those simple credits they can help you figure out, and they're really especially trained in the earned income tax credit, which is a credit for low-income working individuals and families. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a complicated credit, so this is a real big help to the community because they'll help them figure out whether or not they actually qualify for that credit, and they'll help them file that return for them.
So somebody like they just graduated, they've been in the workforce a year, maybe 2 years, nothing, maybe even still living at home, something very simple, they get a W-2, that's a simple.
Definitely,
that's
right.
A simple type.
Obviously, if you own your own business and you have all kinds of receipts and credits and deductions that you might qualify for, they're not going to be able to prepare that return. Simple, straightforward W-2 income with some children even, so they can take some of the credits and deductions for that. Definitely mm-hmm. They can prepare those, but nothing complicated.
So what are some of the changes that in the tax structure that people should be aware of?
Well, we had a big tax bill that passed late, actually not until January 2nd, and that's why the IRS got a late start to the tax filing season this year. We didn't start accepting any returns until January 30th, and at that point only some returns were being accepted. Then by the middle of February, we added a few more, and this week we've actually gone full-fledged now. Everybody can file their returns.
Now it's crunch time.
Exactly.
Right.
6 weeks left. You got to get that return done.
Right.
But there's not a lot of changes. What happened was there was a lot of things that were set to expire at the end of this year, at the end of last year, that now have been extended. And some of those things include like the education credits for students going to college, the teacher's expense deduction, which is a deduction for teachers that are paying for their own classroom supplies, and some energy credits for making energy efficient improvements to your home.
Is that happening more and more? Teachers are buying their own supplies and.
Oh, definitely. Budgets are being cut everywhere. So it's a $250 deduction for these teachers, right. But every little bit helps.
Yeah, especially nowadays. I know. A lot of fraud's going on out there, and people stealing identities. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
We're seeing a lot of different scams. One of them is identity theft, and it's really actually where they're stealing the person's identity by taking their social security number, making up fictitious W-2s, and actually filing a return. And they're doing it early in the filing season, hoping to get in before the real taxpayer files their return. Wow. And the first time that the taxpayer may find out about it is when they go to file their return, and we won't accept it because we've already accepted another return.
Are there any ways for people to protect that type of information? Obviously, your Social Security's out there in many, if you go to the doctors.
Exactly. You have to be as careful as possible. You want to make sure you check your credit bureaus at least once a year. You want to make sure that you don't carry your Social Security card with you if you don't have to. And don't give it out to anybody, obviously, that you don't know. If you're getting an inquiry from somebody on the phone or even an email, if it's asking for personal information and you're not sure who they are, don't give them anything. Try to protect yourself as much as possible.
Some people actually even put that on their driver's license, don't they?
Yes.
Their Social Security number.
Well, it used to be that all driver's licenses had their Social Security number on them. I know in Massachusetts now we have a state-issued number, so that doesn't happen any longer. And I think many of the states are probably taking up that same idea. Or sometimes they'll truncate the number and just use the last 4 digits of a number so that you can protect that, the identity a little bit more. Just be vigilant. If you had a purse stolen or your wallet stolen, you want to make sure you alert the credit bureaus. You may want to contact the IRS. We do have an ID theft unit that's set up. There's a lot of great information right on our website at irs.gov. If you think you are a victim of identity theft, you need to fill out an ID theft affidavit with the IRS, and we have a special unit that will take care of your case.
I've heard cases where, in divorce cases, where the children's Social Security numbers were actually used to file, and so.
Well, that can present some issues as well, especially when both spouses are trying to claim the children. In some divorce decrees, one spouse may get to claim them 1 year and the next spouse the next year. And then there's always the rush of who gets in there first so that they could try to take them. You want to be careful, and that can hold up some returns and refunds as well. If both people try to claim the same child, obviously they're going to get held up.
Does the IRS resolve that, or does that go to the courts?
No, well, the IRS would have to resolve, it may be part of a divorce decree.
Right.
So we would actually go out to the taxpayer and ask them if they, have any documentation that they are entitled to take the child as the deduction. So it would be a case that would be resolved by the IRS, but it can take some time to work those issues out.
Right, and it's obviously.
And in the meantime, it holds up your refund.
Which, if you're expecting it. I guess another question I have is the best way to file e-file. What is the best way? I didn't know there was a bad way.
Well, e-file is the safest, most accurate, and easiest way to file. If you use an e-file program, it's going to lead you through the entire tax return line by line. So it's going to bring up questions about credits and deductions that you might not even be aware of. So it really is going to get you the best refund. Also, you don't have the issue of making math errors any longer, addition and subtraction. When you're using the paper and pencil, you have a chance of making a mistake or transposing numbers and things like that.
And it doesn't let you.
No, it does all the math for you. And then you don't have to sign that return. You choose a PIN number. So a lot of cases when we get paper returns, especially for married couples, one spouse may sign it, the other spouse doesn't. It's not considered a legal document without that signature, so we would have to send the entire return back to the taxpayers to have them sign it and get it back in. So a lot of the errors are taken away with the e-file. It goes right into the processing stream once we get it at the IRS, so it doesn't have to go through the mail. Somebody doesn't have to open the mail and then sort it, and then actually data input that information. So obviously we can process it a lot quicker and then ultimately get that refund out quicker to the taxpayer.
Is that what basically most of your major accountants do? They, like H&R Blocks or whatever, they use e-file, the same system?
As of last year, any tax preparer who files 11 or more returns has to participate in the e-file system. Doesn't mean that every return that they file has to be on e-file. If somebody really wants to file a paper return, they still can. But they are mandated that if they file 11 or more, they have to be in the e-file system, and they have to e-file most of their returns.
So what happens if somebody owes taxes and they can't pay it?
Well, we have a number of options. First of all, you can file now and then not send in your payment until April. So if you're ready to file your return, we encourage you to get it in. So that way you don't forget about sending it, you don't miss the deadline. And then you can send the payment on April 15th. You can pay by credit card. Or if you really can't pay what you owe, then you can set up an installment agreement with the IRS. And you can do that by filing either a Form 9465 with your return, or you can go onto irs.gov and click on the installment agreement application and actually file for it right there online, and you'll get an instantaneous response. As long as you don't owe millions of dollars and you're paying it off within a reasonable amount of time, most people's payment plans get approved. So the worst thing to do is to put it off or not file your return. If you can't pay what you owe, you want to make sure you get that return in there, and then work with the IRS to try to resolve the issue as quickly as possible.
Have you had circumstances where people have been unemployed 6, 8 months and they're really struggling? Is that becoming more and more a problem? It seems to me that nationwide unemployment's up.
Right, we have seen that, and we've seen a spike in the number of people on unemployment. And one of the things those people might not realize is that unemployment income is taxable as well. So we encourage people, if you're just starting out on unemployment, or even if you've been on it for a while, make sure you have some taxes taken out of it so that you don't get hit with the big tax bill at the end of the year when you file. Now, we're seeing that many of these people on unemployment actually have much of a lesser income than they used to, so they may not actually end up owing taxes as long as they're having some taxes withheld from that unemployment benefits.
Right. I guess one of the other issues that's coming up, maybe it's not this year, but maybe next year, is the healthcare issue. That's definitely on a lot of people's minds these days.
Well, right now, there's some small provisions that are coming into play. You may have noticed on your W-2 this year, your employer was supposed to provide how much they actually paid towards your health insurance plan. It doesn't affect your income or your tax return anyway this year. Next year, in 2014, when the individual mandate comes into play, that's when everybody must have health insurance, or otherwise you'll be penalized. That's when you could get a penalty on your tax return. So there's not too much going on with the health care bill right now. We're actually working behind the scenes to get all that implemented. But next year is when you'll hear more and more about that.
Will if you have a benefit with an employer in health care benefits, is that benefit going to be considered a taxable item?
No. No, it must be shown on your W-2 just to prove that you have that insurance, and to prove how much the employer is paying towards that insurance. But it's not taxable in any way. And that's one of the myths that people have out there. If it shows up on my W-2, I'm going to end up paying taxes on it. There's a lot of boxes on your W-2 that aren't even filled in, but one of the boxes now will be what the cost of your health care benefits are.
Right. So if somebody's 23, they're out of high school, and they're not employed, they're in college, can't afford the health care, how's that going to work?
Actually, part of the health care bill allowed for parents to keep their children on their plans up until the age of 27.
Okay.
So that should cover a lot more of the students now.
Oh, some people got it good.
Exactly. And many colleges and universities offer a student plan, which may be a little bit more affordable for them.
Right.
But most people are taking advantage of staying on their parents' plan until 27.
Right. Well, I obviously wouldn't. And if somebody's lost their job now, how does that work? And they've lost their benefits, they'll have to find a plan at this point, from what I understand.
Well, yeah. Going forward, there's an individual mandate. There will be state exchanges set up where you can purchase health insurance from that, and I'm sure there'll be plans for the lower income people or people that are on unemployment that would be more feasible fee type plans.
Right. And if they are unemployed, well, I know that it's something that they have to get now. So even if they're not employed, that's my concern is how are they going to be able to afford it either way? I'm worried for them. I'm worried. So I guess let's see. Where can people get more information if on all the topics? I guess that's another. There's got to be 1,000 questions that you get hit with, and there's the site. You mentioned the site.
Right. It's irs.gov. It's a really great website. It has a lot of information available right there. You can download forms and publications. As you may have realized, we don't mail out those big tax packages anymore.
Right.
So if you still want to see a paper document, you can actually go to the website and download a form or a publication if you need an answer to a question. You can check on your refund once you file. There's a Where's My Refund application on there. You put in some information from your tax return, your Social Security number, the filing status, and the refund amount. And it will tell you whether or not we've received your return, whether it's being processed, and when to expect that money. So that's a great application. You can apply for that installment agreement right on the website. There's a lot of things available right there. There's even, when we were talking about the Earned Income Tax Credit earlier, there's a EITC assistant on there which will help determine whether or not you qualify for that too. Now, that credit is one that the IRS estimates 4 out of 5 individuals or families that actually qualify for that credit will actually take it, and 1 out of 5 gets left out. And that's basically because they think that they're not qualified for it. They think, oh, that's just for low-income people. But as you said, with the number of people on unemployment now, that number is rising. It's a fluid group of people. You might qualify 1 year and maybe not the next. You have to have some earned income, so you can't be on unemployment for the entire year. But if you lost your job during the year, you might want to take a look at that.
Right. Well, it's really interesting, though, that, people that are really struggling, they can go to these volunteer centers or what. Is there one in Nashua?
There should be one in Nashua. I believe that you might have the 211 number up here, and that's where you can find a site, or you can go on to irs.gov and do a search for volunteer sites, and it will bring up the link, and it will ask for your zip code, and it will give you the 4 or 5 closest sites to you.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh. Some of the biggest myths, I think I already asked you that question, is, some of the things that people really shouldn't be worried about, the rumors that are going on.
Well, one of the things is, the refunds being held up, which is not going to happen. Another thing is, e-file causes more audits or more ID theft. Our e-file system is very safe and secure. Nobody has hacked into it. More than 1 billion returns have been filed through the system.
See, I thought I've heard that rumor, too, about the e-files, that there was somebody hacked into it and people were, maybe they were phishing I don't know, they got onto it a different...
Nope, our system has never been. I don't know if some of the state systems have been, but the IRS system has never been hacked into. Not only you can't file directly to the IRS yourself. You have to go through a third party. And that third party has to pass background checks and computer checks to make sure that all of the information that they're sending to us is encrypted, that nobody can hack into that and get your information.
When you're getting your taxes done, you should go through somebody that's certified, obviously. But how can you verify that?
When you're choosing a tax preparer, you have to be really careful. We encourage people to ask your family and friends for recommendations. A lot of people go to the same person year after year after year and feel very comfortable with them. You want to make sure that person's going to be around after the filing season, because you might get that dreaded audit notice, and you might need some help. So you want to make sure they're not just setting up shop between January and April, and then you can't get in touch with them. We do require preparers to now get what we call a preparer tax ID number. So you want to ask them and make sure that they have that ID number with the IRS.
If they have it, can you verify that online? Okay, he gave me this number or she gave me this number.
We just started this system, and that is one of the ideas that we have, that we're going to have a list so that you can verify that.
Right.
At this point, it's not quite available yet because this is a new program.
It would seem, anybody could give you a number.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And if you're really worried about it, ask them if they're a CPA or an enrolled agent. I mean, there are a lot of good return preparers out there that don't have that background, but you want to make sure that your return preparer is as knowledgeable as possible and is going to do the best for you. And don't ever sign a blank return. If you have a preparer that says, here, just give me your information, sign this, and I'll do it all for you. You want to make sure you see that return and make sure you agree with everything on it, because ultimately, even if somebody else prepares the return, once you sign it, you're responsible for it.
Ouch. Wow.
Could be.
Right. What is the difference between a CPA and an enrolled agent?
Well, there's different testing. CPAs have their own testing system. You belong to the Society of CPAs for whatever state you're in. You have to be licensed. Enrolled agents are more licensed by the IRS. We run an enrolled agent test, and then you can represent different types of taxpayers based on that enrolled agent status with the IRS. So if a taxpayer was being audited, you may be able to represent them.
Right. Would a person prefer to have an enrolled agent as opposed to a CPA, or?
Well, it really doesn't matter. It's all based on, there's education requirements, there's testing requirements, so you know that those people are knowledgeable in the tax field. And I'm not saying that other return preparers that don't have those statuses are not knowledgeable, but they do have these requirements. Not only do they have to pass these tests, but every year they have to have a continuing education requirement. So they're more up to date with many of the new tax laws and provisions.
Are there any changes for seniors at all, or is everything pretty much status quo with them?
Everything's pretty much status quo at this point. We might see a lot more changes this year. We don't know what's coming forward. Like I said before, what happened this year was more things that were set to expire were extended out again for at least 2 years to more.
Oh, okay. So nothing immediate. So.
Right. gives them some time to
Yeah.
work on it.
Well, you know, in this type of climate, it just seems like there's a lot of animosity, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of politicking going on. You see it out there, you see it on Twitter a lot. And like you said, there's rumors, and there's, you know, people are nervous. It's good that they know that things aren't drastically changing immediately anyway.
No, they're not drastically changing immediately. There's a lot of credits and deductions. There's a lot of free help out there for people. We also, even on the IRS website, have a program called Free File. If you go click on the link for Free File, it's going to bring up a list of 20 companies that are in partnership with the IRS that offer free electronic filing if your income is $57,000 or less. So you can file right there with them electronically from your own home.
Wow.
As long as you meet the income requirements. Now, once you're in, you have to go to the irs.gov site to access this free file program.
Right.
And then you'll go to the list and pick whichever one you want. And you'll see some brand name softwares on that list. But once you're in that site, they may try to get you to buy audit protection
Right.
or, you know, pay $30 to file your state return as well while you're there. But your federal return will be free as long as you start with irs.gov.
That's a huge service.
There's a lot of good free
Wow.
services out there. I encourage people to take a look at irs.gov.
Yeah.
You know, take advantage of our volunteer sites.
It's easy to navigate through.
It's really easy to navigate through. It's very user-friendly.
Yeah. Usually, it's, you know, if you go to, for instance, if you want to do a copyright or something on it, and you go through that was hard for me to navigate. Writing a song or something, it just going through some of the federal sites are like, oh, that's.
It doesn't look like your typical government site. It's set up to be a little bit more friendly. We even have what we call an interactive tax assistant, where if you have a specific tax law topic that you need to research, it will ask you some questions and it will lead you right through and get you an answer. So it's really intuitive and it's really easy to use.
So one of the things you do is you basically go around New England and you help people, or you basically do, this is what you do.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. Try to get the good word out there that, you know, there's a lot of help available for people. We know it's a complicated tax system, but you're not in it alone. There's a lot of help for you, and you should take advantage of that help.
Right. And one of the main things that you want people to do is go to the website and navigate through that, because there's a lot of helps there.
Definitely. Right. It's really the easiest way to go, irs.gov. Oh. We do have a toll-free number, 1-800-829-1040. Granted, it's busy many times. The beginning of the week is really a busy time, so you want to call later in the week, and maybe later in the afternoon are the best times to call.
What's the latest you can call that number?
I believe it's open till 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Interesting. Okay. Are there any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with our guests?
Well, the filing deadline this year is April 15th, Monday, April 15th, so make sure you get that return in on time.
Right. Last year it was a day later, wasn't it?
Exactly. We Emancipation Day, I believe, interrupted it and gave us an extra day. Even though this year, April 15th is Patriots Day in Massachusetts, you may remember when we filed paper returns in Andover, Mass, we used to get an extra day for Patriots Day. We don't get that any longer because we don't take paper returns in Andover.
Oops.
So this year, Monday, April 15th, for your federal tax returns.
All right. Well, Peggy Riley, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And one more time with the website, if you don't mind.
irs.gov. Toll free is 1-800-829-1040.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for watching Gate City Chronicles. I hope this is a help to you. We appreciate Peggy coming on, and hopefully she'll come on next year if there's some more changes, or in 6 months if there's some more changes. But we hope that this helps you out. So until next week, thank you, and we'll see you.